Grüß Gott, I'm Sister Martina, and we are going to talk in this last video of our series about our dear Holy Father, Pope Francis. After two extraordinary popes, but attention, extraordinary in their persons, because of their capabilities, of their intelligence, of their experience as popes, both John Paul II and Benedict were exactly in the same line of their predecessors. They were popes of the council. They venerated the popes that came before them. They didn't change anything. Many people think the pope is a kind of dictator who can change whatever he wishes in the church, and that is not at all the case. His solemn title is Servant of the Servants of God. He's there to serve the faith, to serve God, to serve the people of God. He cannot change any doctrine. This is something that doesn't exist. He can clarify it. He can determine something that already exists officially, but he's no dictator. And so Popes John Paul II and Pope Benedict are, and they themselves would be the first to say so, one and two more popes in the line of great popes that we have had. But after there, we go back, so to say, to the typical Italian parish priest. Jorge Bergoglio was born in Argentina, but he's Italian in his blood, in his culture, family culture, and he's typically an Italian pope, so to say. Of course, he doesn't have the intellectual caliber of Paul VI, for example. It's the first time in many, many, many years that a pope is not a university doctor. He doesn't have the international experience of John XXIII. He lived all his life in Argentina. But he brings to the pontificate some original elements that surely are what God wished at this moment. Perhaps two, most of all. The first one, he's a Jesuit. And a Jesuit is a very, very specific kind of charisma and vocation in the church. We need only to read, for example, the stories of the missionaries in Canada and so on. So he has, for example, this love for what is far away, for the peripheries, as he said, this love for problems, so to say, for challenges. The Jesuit somehow hates comfort, security, everything is routine, and we have everything arranged. This is exactly the opposite of the Jesuit mentality and characteristics. They are always looking far away, always looking what can I solve now, what is the next problem in my life. And of course, the Jesuit is also and was inside the church a kind of rebel, in the sense of someone who does not easily adapt to rules, and this is how we always did, and you should obey this and that. In the times of European colonization in the Americas and Asia, for example, this was totally essential. A saint like Francis Xavier could have so much success exactly because he was independent of all the typical political religious organization of the Portuguese in India, and also in Brazil or in Canada. The Jesuits were independent from the typical very historical and very human church culture of the time. Not independent in doctrine and morals, of course, from the Holy Father, from the bishops. They are with the church. There is this tendency sometimes, and this is a danger for the Jesuits. But they have this kind of allergy to whatever is, these are the rules and we do like that, and we see that in Pope Francis. On the other hand, he is a Latin American, although from Italian family. He was born and grew up in Argentina, and he brings that. He's very indisciplined, he is very disorganized in many things. He doesn't believe very much in organization. This is typical. I am Brazilian, so I can say that. He is very informal. If he can, he speaks spontaneously. This is very typical. We don't value very much texts that are already written. We love much more to talk with a person. And of course, this is a bit dangerous for the Pope, because he ends up by saying things that he didn't have time to think exactly what would be the best expression. But this is typical from him. He will never lose that. And he's full of warmth, humanity, in the sense of getting near people, touching them, kissing them. This is very typical of Latin Americans also. Almost impulsive, emotional, doesn't think very much before he does things. I can say that. I am Brazilian. We are like that. And this can have disadvantages, but on the other hand, it's very loving, very full of warmth. I miss this very much here in Germany, for example, where people are exactly the opposite of that. They think 10 hours before they do one little minute of thing. And also Latin Americans have this kind of direct approach to things. They speak they don't believe in speeches that are abstract or complicated or very philosophical. They tend much more to speak the language of the person in the street. The Americans, the North Americans have that more, very direct, let's go to the point. Come on, let's not go around and say many things. And so Pope Francis does that all the time. If it is the best thing to do or not, of course one can discuss that, but this is his way of doing. And also a person who has no no fear. This is one of the things that I most admire in him. He's very brave. The situation is very hard for him, not only because of the world, because of the church, but having a pope still there like Benedict, who is such a great man. It's a very hard situation, and he's very hardly criticized from every side. But we never sense in him fear. We never sense in him that, oh, I am this poor man. On the contrary, he's very much, I am there. He's very much this typical Latin American man, and very strong. I'm not afraid of anything. And this is, of course, something that surely God intended him to bring to the church at this moment, the same way as God intended a Polish to be pope and a Bavarian to be pope, and so on. We could say that John Paul II is someone that has to be studied. He is a kind of hero, a leader. Each sentence of him, we should get dictionaries, encyclopedias, and sit down in silence and study it. And for a long time, he will be, of course, very much studied. Benedict, I would say, is exactly the professor, is exactly the master. We should sit, close our eyes, and listen to him, because he clarifies and explains so well that we only need that to pay attention, because not everything, of course, is very common language, but just pay attention and you have a wonderful class. And Pope Francis is, of course, the friend, the brother. He wants to talk. His homilies are just like that. He's talking to people. What he loves is to have a cup of coffee with you and talk to you. This is his way. This is his personality. And it's wonderful to see how God gives us this succession of popes that are so different but so complementary with each other. And it is so. We can, of course, disagree with him, with Francis. We can say, oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it like at this moment. Or I think you should do here. But this we can do with all popes. Yes, also with John Paul II, also with Benedict. Of course, they are men, and not everything they did, not all choices they made were the best ones. It's impossible to be. They also had their faults. They also had their sins. And if we were relatives to the Pope, we could say, oh, Jorge, don't do that, or Carol, or Joseph, I wouldn't do that. I mean, and they have their own styles. Benedict, for example, of course, everybody thinks he's a very conservative, and this is what the media made, of course, person. He is a Bavarian. Look at the habit I have. This habit has 500 years, and in Bavaria, it doesn't make any impression on anyone. Everybody knows it. And Pope Benedict grew up with this kind of very rich, wonderfully old paraments. He loves that. But that doesn't mean that he's sending a message of conservatism. I remember once he used this red kind of thing that the popes used to have on their head, because he gets cold in his head. And it was in the newspapers around the world that he was sending a sign that he was going back to the times before the council, because he had wore this red thing. The last pope that also wore the thing was no less than Pope John the 23rd. Exactly he, the one that made the council, the communist pope, as the people of the right called him at the time. Look for photographs of him. He wore this thing all the time. So it's absurd how the radical or extremist groups, and also inside the church, manipulate the Pope according to their own ideologies, because these are ideologies. This is not the faith. The faith is, on the contrary, is open to all kinds of styles and all kinds of culture. And this is, of course, a very dangerous thing, surely a weapon from the devil that divides the church, divides people of faith, not because they are true to the faith, but because they have their own things. And of course, the poor popes themselves are not guilty of that. I mean, they have their own styles. They are people like just all of us. With Pope Francis, we can see that all the time. Again, we can disagree, of course. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't write this at this moment. This is no problem, but we can do that with other popes too. But we should be very careful to remain people of goodwill, as the angels told the shepherds at Christmas. God is speaking to people of goodwill. God respects our freedom, and we have to have goodwill in order to listen, because if we don't, God himself can come to us and we won't listen. This is the story of Prophet Elijah in the Old Testament. God is not in the volcano, in the earthquake. God is in the very, very soft wind that comes and talks to him. God leaves us our freedom, and so it is with the popes too. If we pay attention to what they are saying or not is something that we are responsible for. We should pay attention. When the document of Pope Francis about marriage and family, Amoris Laetitia, which made such scandal around the world, I've met so many people, the great majority of people in the church, lay people, but also nuns, also priests that I met, and asked, have you read the document? Oh no, I have no time for that. But I've seen on internet, all the criticism, the Pope said so and so. Have you read the document? It's a wonderful document. In a paragraph, he says something about communion for the remarried people. He's not saying that it should be done. And yes, we could discuss if he should have said that or not, or in this way or not, but he's not saying what people say he is saying. The document in itself is wonderful. It's wonderful if people would only read it. His homilies, most of his speeches. He was now for some short time ago in Hungary for the Eucharistic Congress. Wonderful things. Who listens to it inside the church? Who listens to it? No, we have already our judgment. We have already our position. And God will ask us, of course. I gave you such and such a pope. And did you listen to him? No, you lost your time because you kept judging him and accusing him of things that actually mostly of them not true. The idea of Pope Francis, for example, to go to the peripheries but not stay there, this is super important. We should not be isolated. We should meet people, but not stay with them. Bring them to God. Again, Pope Benedict, there is a truth, there is a beauty. Or what he says, the church should be like a war hospital. Yes, the world of today is full of tragedy, disorientation, horrible problems. And the church has to be, what Pope John the 23rd said, first of all, a mother and a teacher. First of all, not an institution that is there to close itself, to absorb itself in itself, as Pope Francis says. It doesn't matter the culture of the church. This can be changed. What cannot be changed is love, is faith, is hope, is exactly. This is the same as the other Pope said. Or what Pope Francis also speaks about, the revolution of tenderness. People think he means tenderness as sentimentality. No, tenderness is a very deep expression of charity. To see the other person as a sacred thing coming from God, to respect, to love, to really give of myself to the others. This is totally urgent in our society, in our Western society nowadays. He is speaking, he is saying, and God is speaking through him. That's why he's the Pope. But no, we sometimes close ourselves in our own judgments and do not listen to him. And of course, we'll have to answer before God for that. So let's pray for the Pope with affection, with obedience. Let's pray that God will guide and help him. And let's ourselves love the Pope, give him our full support, which doesn't mean agreeing with everything, but as Pope, as children of the Church, as children of God. And let's hope that God can be more heard in the world, mostly in the Church, through the wonderful popes that he has given us in the last 100 or 150 years. God bless you all until our next series, and let's go on in this path to heaven that is, of course, not easy. It's a narrow door, but God is there for us. Bye-bye.